We're getting some Twitterverse action here, but I'm also got a spotter. So number 7, Cheryl Clark, had a mechanical, just rolled into the pit. So number 7, Cheryl Clark of Team EPS CSS, she is currently in the pit. She will get a free lap. We do have free laps here at the Tour of Somerville. That means that you can have a mechanical, you can have a flat tire, you can roll into our SRAM neutral support tent, and you can get yourself fixed up and then jump back into the bike race without any penalty whatsoever. That gives a lot of riders certain comfort, and it is something that we do in American bike racing for everybody involved. So number 7, Cheryl Clark of Team EPS, she's our first rider into the race. So how many laps to go in the women's pro? Let me ask my spotter because I can't quite see. 10 laps. So 10 laps remaining. I will also reply to you here. Thanks for reaching out. 10 laps. Woo. Cool. So 10 laps remaining in our women's Tour of Somerville. This is the 74th annual Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic. Sounds like our audio is back. Apologize for any audio drops as we're coming in. We're dealing with some Wi-Fi. We know we're starting to also see a lot of spectators sort of around my situation. So we'll do the best we can to make sure that we are bringing you the best quality service we can. One rider off the front. It is a Canadian Cyclery 4i. That's rider lucky number 13. That's Emily Flynn. Emily Flynn of the Cyclery 4i team. And on the front, just sort of shutting that down, is, again, the Canadian team. So it seems like the Canadian 4i's tactic here today is to just throw riders off the front and then shut down the field. That's an interesting tactic. I mean, to me, that tells me that the riders on the Cyclery 4i team are not necessarily confident in their field sprint against some of these other riders. I find that pretty interesting, actually, just because of the results that this Cyclery team did post earlier this week. Even yesterday. Ariana Bonham of the Cyclery 4i team, she did win yesterday in Raritan, New Jersey, out sprinting Laura Van Gilder. So this tactic that the Canadians are throwing out here today at the Tour of Somerville, it's reminiscent of a team that's not confident in a sprint in this situation, even though they've proven this weekend that they do have that sprinting capability. Perhaps, they're going to keep Ariana in the field and maybe play off the lead-outs of some of the other teams. That's a tactic that a lot of smaller teams will emphasize. It's a way for basically getting more horsepower in your favor without you actually having that horsepower late. And then by animating early on, you are sort of forcing the pace and the effort of the other teams to take the win for you, right? So if the Canadians are not off the front, it means that they maybe have to take the win in order to set that pace. Whereas if they throw a rider off the front like they have been the past few laps, they're going to allow to the other teams to do all that pace setting and then sort of take a free ride. That really, really benefits Ariana Bonham. Bonham today, she's going to be riding number 5 because her last name starts with a B, so she gets a really high starting number. Again, she's down here from Canada this weekend. She's raced all 3 of our Tour of Somerville events. So we're checking out what our spotters are saying. So I got a question, is this a good race for Category 2 Devos? In women's cycling, yeah, absolutely. You can learn a lot when you're out here. Everything that I just talked about, that's a whole layer of complexity that you rarely see in some amateur races where you start to actually get to race with these professional women. You really start to understand nuances of cycling and how things play out. All right, cool. So now we're starting to see the Mellow Mushroom professional cycling team surrounding Van Gilder. I'm also seeing the Fearless Femmes start to move themselves up. We're going to see a little bit of action on the front right side of the field as they're heading into that. This is not a preem lap, I believe. I don't believe. It looks like is not. It is 8 laps remaining right now. We got attack up the side led by EPS. So once again, the EPS team really putting in a lot of effort here today. It sounds like these local riders really want to make sure that they animate for what is essentially one of their more local, larger events on the calendar. Another 2-place preem, $50 and $20 here. $50 and $20 up for grabs. The field is all back together. It'll be interesting to see now that we have the field all together, what will happen on that back stretch. You know, are we going to see any sort of splits and separations on our back stretch? I'm looking at a camera shot right now. I hope you guys can see it as well. We're not seeing any separation. We're seeing 2, 3 wide. That slowness that I saw right there, that was just sort of jitters. The speed is actually pretty high, even though we've got 2 or 3 people across. So we're going to see a lot of battling, a lot of fighting for this $50 and $20 preem. So the wind here today, not too much wind. I've got a little bit of headwind coming on the finishing stretch. The headwind on the finishing stretch will make the sprint slightly seem longer, but you jump later. So it becomes an actual shorter sprint. These preems give these athletes an opportunity to test out their sprint and to see what they can do in these race situations. Got some friends here hanging out. A Category 2 rider, Armand Kabarek, is out here right now. Armand, how was the race? Was it fast?
Yeah, it was fast.
It's fast out there today, yeah? All right.
Really fast, but fun.
All right, and it's a lot of fun. That's cool to hear. So there's a Category 2 rider, Armand Kabarek. He's out of Brooklyn, New York right now. He's coming over to say hi. Always good to see old friends. The field, he says the course is fast, the weather is good, the weather is mild. That means that everything that I've been saying is actually true and accurate, that, you know, these sprints are going to be tough. This is going to be a tough field sprint situation for these riders. The Canadians looking to try to set up themselves for this preem, but the Pickle Juice Pro Cycling team is right there, right beside them. Some of the Fearless Femme riders look like they were also trying to come up the side. I'm definitely going to have to rely on a spotter up at the start-finish line to make sure I understand who won this $50 and then $20 preem. Really good to see those paces really start to accelerate, though, as we're coming in. Looks like, even though with the bit of the headwind, the sprint is starting just past the bus stop here. Adam Meyerson, I've been emailing with him a lot this week, just trying to get a good sense of how this race plays out from his perspective. He's an athlete who's always been very much a factor in this race, even when it was one of the largest like U.S. national championship events. And Meyerson said that this bus stop right here is the classic sprint start line for most races, most years. It looks like that is the case for us right now. So number 13 and number 41 took our preems. So number 13 is Emily Flynn for the Cyclery 4i. I'm good. All right, sorry for that. Apparently the battery died in my microphone. I think I'm back. If I'm back, you let me know. I'm just going to call it as I see it. So, field's all back together. Looks like Anita Steinberg, she's got the, looks like that Norwegian, or that Norwegian flag on her shoulder there. So she took that second place preem, and now she's still sitting on the front. That's showing some really good fitness there by those Pickle Juice Pro Cycling women here today. 6 laps remaining in our race, and we've got another preem. Wow. So 6 laps to go, another $50 and $20 preems. Elspeth Hewitt making herself known, number 20, riding today for QCW Cycling, presented by Breakaway / JL Velo. She is here by herself, I believe. She may have 1 or 2 other teammates, but Elspeth, she's a rider I know really well. She works for Bicycling Magazine, and so I get to ride with her quite a lot, and I see her up at the velodrome in the Lehigh Valley quite a bit. Somebody wanted to know, isn't one of the Pickle Juice Pro Cycling riders an Olympian? Yes. She was, that was Alicia Keith, number 21. She was on the long team for the New Zealand national team for the 2016 Rio Olympics for Team Pursuit. So Alicia Keith, she was an Olympian this past year. And actually currently the other rider, Anita Steinberg, she is also trying to put herself in contention for the Olympics in 2020. So those 2 international riders on the Pickle Juice Pro Cycling team are definitely looking to repeat themselves as Olympians here today. Really cool to have them out here. So here we are right now. In Tour of Somerville, 74th Annual Tour of Somerville. My name is Gabe Lloyd. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find me on Twitter at Gabe Lloyd. If you have any questions for me, I'll do my best to answer them. I think it's going to be a really good race here today. All right, so I was just checking that. Sorry, it's been a bit of delay here. Danny Mooreshead also got 3rd in the crit at Collegiate Road Nats this year. So Danny Mooreshead, who's definitely made herself known here a number of times. She's number 34 here today, riding for Team ERAS. She's a really good rider. Right now, Emily Flynn is off the front, but Monica Volk is going after her really hard. Monica's riding for a Rally Professional Cycling team. She has no teammates here today. She is by herself. Monica is starting to realize that the Canadians have a really strict advantage, but Monica's doing her best to get that preem. Let's see if Monica can sneak $50 into her pocket. Let's see. So another preem, and I just heard over race radio, we are at the end of our free laps. So before I was telling you guys, we have free laps for any rider who has a mechanical or a flat. They jump into our SRAM neutral support tent and they can get themselves fixed up. And that offering is limited, right? So you can do that up to a certain point, but now we are looking at 5 laps remaining in this race. There are no more free laps here today. The wrap up on that last preem, and we actually have another preem right now, so we're throwing preem after preem after preem on these women. It's going to really change how we're looking at our final output here today. The Canadians have done a really amazing job here so far. The winner of that preem, I believe, was still Emily Flynn on the last lap. Let me ask. And then Monica Volk of Rally Pro Cycling did get 2nd on that preem. So Monica put $20 in her pocket here today. That's a nice little consolation prize, but it's also a bit of a confidence booster for Monica to actually be able to sprint without any teammates here today and take that preem. Monica's done a phenomenal job over the past few years, really learning how to surf the field. She really started riding just about 5 or 6 years ago at the Valley Preferred Cycling Center in T-Town. She has really come through the ranks amazingly well. She is a former collegiate national champion now. When she was riding for Penn State, she just graduated from Penn State. She's now riding full-time for Rally Pro Cycling. She did take that $20 preem. Emily Flynn of Cyclery 4i did hold on to that $50 preem though on that last lap. That was kind of amazing, honestly, because Emily only had about 10 meters in front of the field, and she was able to hold that speed into the headwind here as we're seeing our finish come up. So a lot of strength, a lot of power here by the Canadian Cyclery 4i team, and these Canadian women, man, they are strong right now. I mean, they are all over the front of the race. Teams like Mellow Mushroom are sort of allowing them to take that control, and I think they're doing a great job, honestly. So now we're seeing 4 laps remaining in our women's professional race here today at the 74th annual Tour of Somerville. 4 laps remaining here right now, and we are going to start to see some lead-out trains. Sure, yeah. So Marianne Caruso, I did talk a little bit about Pickle Juice before and how Colleen Gulick did win the Red Hook Criterium in Brooklyn earlier this year. I did have the honor of calling that event as well. It was a really fast, really hard event, but also very different from today's race. It would be really cool for Colleen to add today's race to her resume. She's had a fantastic spring. She's got some really big plans now in the Red Hook Criterium Series to go over to Europe and race against some of those women there as well. But to add this Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic to her race resume would really, really be something special for Colleen. When you come from T-Town and you race in T-Town a lot, we have a lot of former winners of the Tour of Somerville riding with us constantly. To sort of add that feather to her cap would be absolutely tremendous. So that is Colleen Gulick, an American rider on the Pickle Juice Pro Cycling team. She has 2 teammates here today who have done an amazing job. Anita Steinberg being one of them. She's from Norway, I believe, and she has taken a couple preems. And then we also have Alicia Keith from New Zealand, also riding for the Pickle Juice Pro Cycling team. Again, the Pickle Juice Pro Cycling team has a lot of really deep, really good talent in there. So it's great to see them out here today. And thank you so much for asking about them. Cool. So some more of our friends on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Gabe Lloyd. And if you do have any more questions about today's event, please feel free to ask me. I'll do everything I can to answer your questions in a timely manner. We're doing everything we can with the equipment we have to bring you the 74th annual Tour of Somerville. We are going to be seeing 3 laps to go here for our Tour of Somerville professional women's race here. Now we're looking for lead-out trains. Now we're starting to look for some real team dynamics. It's going to be essential here today. So far, the Cyclery 4i team has done a fantastic job. This is the team that won last year with Ellen Waters. And as we said at the beginning of the broadcast, Ellen passed away this year. She was struck by a vehicle while she was training in her hometown in Canada. Okay, so now we've got a big shakeup, ladies and gentlemen. A big shakeup because there are no more free laps, and we have a massive crash here in the middle of the field. We have a couple riders still on the ground back here. None of these riders are going to be able to jump into the pit. All of these riders must chase because we have no more free laps. I'm trying to see if I can see if any of the Cyclery 4i riders are part of this. I do see a red jersey with black shorts up there. I hope that is not our Canadian national champion, who went down, but we're going to see. We've got a couple Fearless Femme riders right now who are trying to jump up and get themselves out there. I am getting inundated with some messages and tweeters and everything. Sorry about that. So, okay, so we're going to do, this is currently, we're currently on 3 laps to go. We have another preem on the line for a 2-place preem, a $50 and a $20 preem. No free laps once again, so that's a race situation right now. All these riders, if they want to continue, they must chase. Although at this point, I do believe all these riders will be out and done. It looks like there may be 1 or 2 mellow mushrooms on the right side of the course. We do need to get these riders up and off the course, just because we do have the front of the race coming through here shortly. There is a preem on the line. There is a preem on the line for $50 and $20 here. And then it sounds like there will be one more preem, a $100 preem on the next to last lap, sort of a gambler's preem here. All right. We're clearing these riders off of the road safely. So a big shakeup at the end of our women's feature event here today, as we're jumping into the last 3 laps. Again, 3 laps remaining right now. We had a big crash in the field as we came into that 3 laps to go. There was a preem bell rung. It caused a little bit of havoc. We lost a couple mellow mushroom riders. It looked like Jessica Chong went down there. So Laura Van Gilder's mellow mushroom team is taking a bit of a hit here, and we're also looking for the Canadian national champion to make sure that she is still in the mix here for Cyclery 4i. That would be number 15, Kinley Gibson. So front of our field coming through here, Kinley Gibson is on the front. So Gibson made it through safely from that crash. He is now setting tempo, and the Canadian Cyclery 4i team is definitely taking control. I did not see too many of the mellow mushroom women up there, but they have another 2 laps to regain some composure. So this will be a preem lap, but it looks like, I can't tell if the Canadian team is just going to sweep up those 2 preems and part of their lead out, but we do have another preem on the line. The preem on the line is $100. Now with 2 laps to go, 2 laps remaining in this race, a gambler's preem in effect right now. We do have a couple riders chasing here, desperately trying to regain some contact. It's going to be a really, really hard effort for these 3 riders who just passed me here in turn 4 to regain contact at this point in the race, especially with the Canadian Cyclery 4i team really taking control. Number 15, Kinley Gibson, she did actually take that $50 preem. So she definitely made it through. She made it through that crash there, and she is now part of that lead out and just sweeping up preems as they go. A lot of action here at the Tour of Somerville in the last few laps of our professional women's race. We are looking to see what type of teamwork is going to happen here. I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the race, but Laura Van Gilder has won this event 3 times. It's been 12 years since she's won this race, and she would really, really like to take Tour of Somerville one more time. Van Gilder is an absolute legend. She won on Saturday for the Boundbrook Criterium, which is a similarly explosive race. So it would be really, really amazing for the American Laura Van Gilder to win here once again. Her first win in Somerville was in 1999. So that is, today will be quite the compliment if she would be able to take another win here today, surrounded by her mellow mushroom compatriots. She's got a lot of horsepower here in that mellow mushroom field. Dr. Max Amenko, Cassie Max Amenko is a very solid teammate, somebody that you definitely want on your side. Hopefully she made it through that crash. Oh man, but this lead out from the Canadian Cyclery 4i team is starting to ramp up. You've got the Canadian national champion on the front now for over 1.5 miles. That's a really big effort by Kinley Gibson to take on this late in the race. But we are seeing 1 lap to go, ladies and gentlemen. 1 lap remaining here at the 74th Annual Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic, brought to you by Unity Bank. Thank you so much, Unity Bank, for supporting cycling, especially women's cycling here. There's $10,000 on the line here in Somerville for these women. It's going to be a fantastic sprint. The Canadians throughout this afternoon have done an amazing job really showing themselves. They've swept up a number of the preems. They've thrown a number of riders off the front, and then they regrouped when that tactic did not work, and now they're setting up a proper lead-out train. Close up behind them, you're seeing a lot of the mellow mushrooms, but we cannot count out the Pickle Juice Pro Cycling team. Colleen Gulick, an American rider, with 2 really, really strong international women surrounding her, is definitely a rider to be looking for here on your final lap. This is a race to turn 3 here today. Again, this is a shorter course. It's not the long course that you guys are used to for the past couple years. We shortened the course by 1 block this year. That completely changes our dynamic. Your race to turn number 3 on the backside is your position. You must be in good position entering turn 3, carrying that speed on the slight downhill, and then through turn 4, and then you're hit with a bit of headwind. The flags are actually blowing pretty strongly right now, right in front of me at the bus stop here, right out of turn 4. Adam Meyerson always says that this bus stop is where the sprint starts. So far, the Canadians have proven that correct. Emily Flynn took a preem earlier today. Kinley Gibson also took a preem sprinting from this point. So I think we have established that our bus stop is where the sprint will begin, even with this really strong headwind. But let's see if we're going to be saying a new name here at the end, because the Tour of Somerville rewards patience. It rewards those who sit tight and do not do a lot of effort throughout the race. We're doing everything we can here to call this race accurately for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in here today. My lead moto has just come by me. We are seeing these women come out of turn 4, and it is the Pickle Juice Pro Cycling team giving it everything they can. That is Anita Stenberg giving a huge lead out for Colleen Gulick. Colleen is shoving over to the right or the left side of the road as she rips up the inside line, trying to protect herself from this headwind. And we're looking to see if Colleen Gulick will be able to hold on to that speed as she reaches for the line. We got our spotters here at our finish line, and it is Laura Van Gilder. Laura Van Gilder of Mellow Mushroom Professional Cycling has taken today's 74th Annual Tour of Somerville. Laura Van Gilder, the ageless Laura Van Gilder. She first won here in 1999. She wins here today. This is her 4th Tour of Somerville victory. Awesome to have her. We did not say her name all day, and that is exactly how you win a Tour of Somerville bike race. When you're patient, when you let everybody else do the work, you can come out victorious here. She knows the sprint because she's done it so many times. Again, winning first in 1999, Laura Van Gilder takes the win here today, riding for Mellow Mushroom Professional Cycling. We're going to work on getting you your top 5 as soon as possible. But man, we are so excited to have Laura Van Gilder standing on this top step here today. A really, truly fitting way to cap off the 74th Annual Somerville Cycling Classic. Wow, that is amazing. I mean, so Pickle Juice Pro Cycling, as they came by me here in turn 4, Pickle Juice Pro Cycling with Anita Steinberg, honestly did an amazing job really ramping up the speed. And Colleen Gulick did a great job jumping off the wheel. So Colleen jumped left and really shoved a lot of the Peloton left. Van Gilder actually stayed right. And Van Gilder stayed to the right and was able to just sort of kick that last 50 meters. That's all Van Gilder needed in order to take the win here today, because this is a deceptive sprint. You know, we start here at the bus stop that's about 75 to 100 meters from the finish line, but with a little bit of headwind, you wait, and Van Gilder knows that with her experience and, of course, the fitness that she's exhibited here all weekend. Really awesome to see her use that skill set to give herself the win here this afternoon. Still waiting on our top 5. Looks like we got some numbers coming at me, so let me check my start list here. All right, so number 50, Laura Van Gilder of the Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers, presented by Van Dessel. That is the full team name there. LVG, she takes the win here today. In second position, number 41, Anita Stenberg of Pickle Juice Pro Cycling. So Anita was actually the lead out for Colleen. She ended up taking second position. So Pickle Juice in second. And the third number that I'm being passed, Team EPS / CSS, presented by Shellbell and Shellbell, number 27, Deborah Liddell Brown, a name, again, that I did not say all day, showing that patience is a virtue here at the Tour of Somerville. Number 27, Deborah Liddell Brown, taking third. It looks like that's as many positions as I'm going to be given here. So again, your winner here today for the 74th annual Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic, Laura Van Gilder, riding for Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers, presented by Van Dessel. In second position, the Norwegian rider Anita Stenberg, riding for Pickle Juice Pro Cycling Team. And in third position, number 27, that was Deborah Liddell Brown, riding for Team EPS / CSS, presented by Shellbell and Shellbell. My name's Gabe Lloyd. You can follow me on Twitter at Gabe Lloyd. If you have any other questions, I'm going to take a really short break before we start our men's feature event. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk with you shortly.
Bridgewater Nissan. There's a ton of reasons to purchase from us, like a no-nonsense sales process with price and payments in minutes, not hours. Your time is valuable, so we offer you the best price up front. And this month, we're giving the house away. For example, lease a new 2017 Maxima S for an affordable $189 a month for 36 months. Or lease a new 7-passenger 2017 Pathfinder S just $199 a month with no down payment. Think savings? Think Bridgewater Nissan. Visit us online at bridgewaternissan.com.
donated for this event, and so if you do have any questions about that, if my audio drops out or if the video feed doesn't quite work for you for a minute, you can try refreshing your browser or just hanging tight, shooting me a message on Twitter, letting me know if you missed some of the action. I can try to recap for you really quickly. Looks like we are doing a national anthem type of thing here at the front for our men's feature race. I have a spotter up at the front of the race. It happens to be my wife, Casey Lloyd. So let's see what's going on here for our men's race. It's a 42-lap race, which is going to put us at around 50 miles. It is a $10,000 prize list in total, plus a certain amount of preems like we saw for the women. The way this race is run, you're going to probably see a lot of preems throughout the race taking place, just to keep the action high and to keep our speeds moving quickly. A lot of synopsis was done earlier this week. I reached out to a lot of my friends in the Peloton to try to understand exactly what is the best way of approaching this race. One of the riders I reached out to was last year's winner, Scott Savory. He rides for the Lupus Racing team. Scott is he's a very explosive sprinter. He really loves this event because it means that he has a lot of room to move around. He says straight up, I do a lot better in sprints where I have a lot of room to move around. I don't really do well in races where the final turn is really tricky and technical. And I asked him about the new turn 3 this year. He said he wasn't really worried about it, so that's good to hear. Returning champion Scott Savory, seeming comfortable, seeming ready to go. He'll be rider number 50 here today. Total number of men out here today numbered at 70. 70 men registered for our feature men's race with a prize list of $10,000. Our race is underway. Wow, so Lehigh Valley, you're going to love this. Paul Pearson, former winner of this event, he took the start line. Paulie was like, you know what, you guys, I'm going to show you how it's done. I'm feeling pretty good on my Thursday night crits, so I'm going to come on out and see if I can take you once again. Paulie has won this race before, 1987, the year my sister was born. So, Paul Pearson, a returning champion, toeing the line here today. Really cool to have him out here. So one name who is not on this former winners list that probably should be is the legendary Adam Meyerson. Meyerson really, really wants this race. It is basically one of the few criteriums in the United States that he has not won before. He knows that, and he came here today specifically to win. This will be Adam's 27th Tour of Somerville. He only missed one since 1990 when he raced the Ross in Ireland. You can ask Jake Sittler all about the Ross in Ireland, as he had a pretty good race there this weekend, or this past week, excuse me. So Adam Meyerson, 27 Tour of Somervilles here. Just an amazing streak for that. But not to be outdone, Bill Elliston of the Van Dessel cycling team and, of course, of Elliston Coaching. This will be Bill's 33rd Tour of Somerville here today. And it is Bill's 33rd consecutive Tour of Somerville out here today. Strategy for these riders who want to win is to hang out. It's to mimic Laura Van Gilder and her wise ways, and it is to basically ride as cautiously and take as few pedal strokes as possible, because this race certainly rewards patience. Now what you're seeing on the front of the race right here, right now, are riders going after preems. These riders who are using their legs up right now, they know that there's a certain number of cash preems available to them throughout the day. Riders number 61, 22, and 24 in particular right now are going for those preems. Ted Horowitz is one of those guys riding for Monster Media, presented by Butcher Box. Ted Horowitz jumping out early in this race, looking for some preem money. He's also joined there by number 22, John Holden, and then number 61, Paul Burrows. You can never discount a Burrows brother when you are in a New York or New Jersey bike race, especially one at the Tour of Somerville. If you race any of the Prospect Park races or the Central Park races, you will know the Burrows brothers. They were racing well before my time, and they continue to race well past my time of riding quickly. So really cool to have those guys out here today. So let's see what our spotters are saying. Yep, so we've got a $20 preem on the line. Those three riders initially will be going for it. If your video is not working at this point, we apologize. It seems like we're refreshing that stream. I'll do, again, my best. If my audio drops out, shoot me a message on Twitter. I'm at Gabe Lloyd, and I will do everything I can to make sure that I catch you up on the action. This is just the first lap of a 42-lap event for our 74th annual Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic. $10,000 up for grabs, presented by Unity Bank. Thank you very much for those guys. So a lot of strategy here today as we are looking at this overall sprint. You know, there's two types of sprinters. There are explosive sprinters, and then there are long drag sprinters. So an explosive sprinter would be someone who, once they are at speed, they can kind of just burst up another level in a way that they have top-end speed that other riders just physically cannot meet. Riders like Jake Keogh, who is in here today riding for Team Skyline, and is an amazing example of that really explosive sprint. And it'll be really nice to see him out here today. Rider number 75 took that last preem, but that person did not pre-register, so I don't have their name on my list. So they're just going to be rider number 75 because they did not pre-register. Talking about sprints, so what we just saw there, you know, I saw Mike Chauner jump really pretty late. He knows that there's a headwind here, and Mike isn't not necessarily an explosive sprinter by trade, only because his top-end speed is not nearly what somebody like Adam Meyerson or Jake Keogh can be at the end of a race. You know, an explosive sprinter prefers to jump off of a high-speed lead-out train and use that extra burst of speed to initially create a gap between themselves and the rest of the field. The explosive sprinter can hold his speed for about 75 to 100 meters, and then that means that the rest of the field has to ride faster than that sprinter, who's already demonstrated that they have a phenomenal top end, just to catch and then pass that rider. So again, Keogh, amazing, phenomenal example of that. Really excited to have him back here today. So a long drag sprinter, you know, they start their sprint from much further out, 250 to 300 meters out. I know that's very, very long, but that's a number that a lot of these guys in the field confirmed with me before today's event. Their top speed is lower overall than the explosive sprinter, but they can hold that speed longer, therefore giving them an advantage of time over the rest of the field. The other sprinters may try to go with the sprinter, but it is too early for them as well, and they essentially get ridden off that wheel. So, you know, these two types of sprinters in Somerville, they each have a chance because of how long the distance is of this finishing sprint. It's deceptively long. You know, a long-range sprinter could jump out of turn 4 and maybe have a chance, but you never know. Honestly, awesome to see Bill Elliston out there in this three-man split right now. So we got three riders off the front. Bill Elliston of the Van Dussel Pro Cycling in his 33rd consecutive Tour of Somerville has put himself into a breakaway, and he was flicking his elbow, asking riders to pull through. So excited to see Bill Elliston out there right now riding for Van Dussel Pro Cycling. Let's see. Number 3 was also in there with them. That would be Thomas Barnett of Team E-Race, presented by DSO Manufacturing. That team in the women's field was very strong throughout the day, so really nice to see them. And then rider number 34, Barry Miller. Baza making an appearance at the front of the Tour of Somerville, 74th Tour of Somerville. This year, Barry Miller is riding for Metra / Exercel / Cyclists 54. Barry is a rider that I've known very well. Actually lived with Barry for a little while in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, and Lehigh Valley, where there is a tremendous cycling scene, surrounded by the Valley Preferred Cycling Center and the track that is hosted there. So we have a whole lot of deep cycling culture, which has been really great to see. So let's talk about why Barry Miller, Bill Elliston, and rider number 3, Thomas Barnett, might be looking for that early break. It's the same reason that the women's field be looking for that break. They're looking for those preems. They don't like their chances in an explosive sprint situation against the like of the Burroughs brothers or Jake Keogh or Adam Meyerson. They want to see themselves scooping up preems and possibly giving themselves enough of an advantage over the field that they can maybe squeak out a result. But really, it's more about squeaking out preems and making sure they can take some cash home for their efforts here today. So this $20 preem lap, it's meant to really sort of shake things up. And, in the men's field, you need a really pretty significant gap in order to maintain your advantage. And now 3 riders, such as with Barry Miller and Bill Elliston and Thomas Barnett, these guys are really strong. They actually did maintain their gap here today. Really good to see Barry out there with Bill Elliston and... excuse me, that was Ross Baldwin. I apologize, because that's for the Lupus Racing Team. Sorry, Thomas Barnett, I misspoke. I was just looking at the rider numbers, not the bid numbers. So Ross Baldwin of the Lupus Racing Team. Interesting tactic right now to... So the tactic of this Lupus Racing Team, I apologize, I was distracted there for a bit. We've got a rider in the field with no number. They forgot that part. So we're dealing with them. We've got a Lupus Racing Team member out there, Ross Baldwin, really strong rider as well. That'll put a lot of horsepower into the move with Bill Elliston and Barry Miller, who are just looking for some early preems and early cash in their pocket. Again, these guys are not explosive sprinters, but for the Lupus Racing Team with Ross Baldwin, having a Lupus Racing Team member in the break like this immediately takes all the pressure off of the rest of those guys. They are confident in Ross for his ability to sort of set that tempo and not get dropped out of the break. If you know anything about bike racing, the first rule of the breakaway is to not get dropped. You'd never want to get yourself dropped out of a breakaway, and these guys know that. At this level of racing, that is one of those core components that you learn when you're a category 3 or category 2 rider. So now that we are all category 1 riders here and international riders, you're going to see these guys really maintain that. I'm getting some feedback here from the start finish line from my spotter that we've got a really big chase group coming onto those top 3 riders though. Anthony Lowe, number 73. Another New York City rider who did not pre-register. Anthony Lowe, I know him from my time living in New York City a long time ago. He is a very good, very aggressive sprinter. He's definitely somebody at this point in his career that's going to be looking for these early cash preems, and somebody who knows that while he could probably end up with the top 10, he would much rather make sure that he finds himself into these breakaway situations. Looks like Ryan DeWald of Team Skyline is also trying to make his way across, and then we have another group of 4, 1, 2, little bit of gaps. So we've got a lot of riders just sort of strung out right now. The pace is really high. Noah Grenigan actually riding there at the end of the field. He rides for CCB Pro Cycling. Noah's got a lot of fitness. He could be a rider that we are talking about later on today. I'm going to say that we are all back together and completely strung out. So let's see. So I'm getting a few extra riders that registered late here today. I'm going to just add them to my list. This would be a great time to reach out to me on Twitter at Gabe Lloyd to ask me any questions that I can answer for you guys. Just make sure that you guys are getting all the information that you want. Just copying over a couple last-minute registrations to my rider list, riders who did snuck in there in the last minute, decided they wanted to make their way over to Tour of Somerville, couldn't resist the 74th edition of today's race. We certainly hope the audio quality and the video quality is still working for everybody out there, and we are doing the best thing we can for everybody. We are very early into our professional men's feature event for the 74th Annual Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic. $10,000 on the line here today thanks to Unity Bank. Thank you for sponsoring cycling and coming out. All right, so that early move that had just 3 riders separating, it's a really good example of what can happen over and over and over again in a Tour of Somerville situation, and also really what happens in the first 10 laps of a Tour of Somerville. You know, the first 10 laps is really where guys are shaking the legs out and trying to see if we can get rid of anybody, or also to see if just sort of early break might get some legs. The chances of those two things happening are always pretty low, honestly, even with these gaps that are occurring. So we got another Metra cycling rider, number 16. Looks like Ross Baldwin also made his way back onto that. He rides for Lupus. Rider number 16, Glenn. Yeah, so that's Glenn Ferreira. Glenn won Bear Mountain this year. He has a lot of power. He definitely, this course does not necessarily suit him. He is definitely a dark horse, so to speak, for today's feature event. But, Glenn's got a lot of power. And if you get Glenn mixed in with some other really strong riders like a Michael Chauner or a Stephen Hall, both who ride for PA Lightning, you get those guys together in a mix, man, that can get real dangerous real quick. But that's a gamble you take if you're a rider like Adam Meyerson, who's riding for CycleSmart, which is his own coaching company. Adam Meyerson's here. He's here for the win. He's not going to put himself in any danger early on. He's not going to do anything that would jeopardize his opportunity to have a really fresh set of legs for the finishing sprint. So, I'm not going to be saying Adam's name too much as far as the action is concerned. Early on, we're going to be talking a lot more about these dark horse riders, these riders who do not necessarily want to see anything, see the field come down to a field sprint. They really do want that break. Catching guys up a little bit on the action, number 3 took the preems. So that was Ross Baldwin of Lupus Racing Team. That is the team of Scott Savory, who was last year's winner. Some riders were surprised but that Scott actually took the win. But Scott, he's a really impressive, explosive sprinter, as I was talking about earlier. Power for this guy, is it going to reach? Or do I have to get a different computer? So Scott Savory, he surprised some riders last year a little bit, but he's got a really tremendous top end speed. I mean, he even told me yesterday, and I posted this on my social media channels, that what did he say? That an amazing quote that was basically, it's rare that I lose a sprint where I have room to make up ground. But he followed that up with, it's easy to lose a 200-meter sprint out of a sharp crit turn. And what he means out of that is that he really prefers high-end speed. He prefers the race to be a lot faster instead of jumping from a really slow speed, kind of like what it is right now, like what we're looking at. So I think a rider like Scott is really going to prefer sort of the natural tendencies of this race at the end of the day, and he will do his best to continue his winning streak here at Tour of Somerville. It's very rare that we see repeat winners in the men's field for Tour of Somerville. We saw Teresa Cliff-Ryan as one person over the years who has won the women's field multiple times. As has Tina Pick. She's also won the women's race a number of times. But in the past few years, we really have to go all the way back to Jonas Carney to see repeat winners in the men's field. That would be years 2002 and 2003. Jonas Carney, one of the masterful tacticians in the Peloton, he was the last time that we saw back-to-back winners in the men's field. All right, so we're getting a lot of information here from Casey at the start-finish line. 35 laps remaining in this race. That's right. So 35 laps to go. So we ticked off around 8. We've got another preem on the line. Number 16 is off the front by himself. That is Gilbert Gomez of Team Somerville Bicycle Shop. And it looks like we're checking our cameras here on the backstretch. You can see how strung out these riders are. A lot of speed is continuing, and then you're going to continue to see that. We're still so early in this race. And remember, as I was saying in the women's field, the reason that you have such good speed, this is a great camera angle that we were able to get here for our men's field. We're looking up towards turn number 3 right now. And looking up towards number 3, that's a crucial part of our race. You can see we have got that one solo rider. Let's see if it is, actually looks like Glenn. But let's see who that turns out to be. And then the rest of the field, not necessarily single file, but, still a pretty good pace. Yeah, you know what? I do think that is Glenn. Yeah. Nice riding, Glenn. Number 16. Glenn. Nice. That's really cool to see. Glenn, he won Bear Mountain by about 10 minutes earlier this year. He was followed there, I believe, by number 23. It's either number 23 or 32. I had a little bit of moment of dyslexia there. But Glenn is still off the front. He's got a couple riders trying to get across to him because everybody knows that you want to try to get into a break. You can see as the riders are going through the start finish here on our full screen camera that you're going to start to see these groups of 5, 6, 7, 8 just try to get across. That's the magic number at Somerville is 8. If you get 8 guys in a breakaway situation, you could start to really get some speed on that. Here we are. So we're going to see what's going to happen here. With the horsepower of Glenn, he's basically just chilling out there right now, just trying to make sure that he can find his way to get some companions out there with him early on. He's definitely not riding terribly hard. I mean, he's riding fast, obviously, or else he wouldn't be off the front. But you could tell just from his facial expressions and everything else, he's not really gassing it to the point where he would drop himself out of a breakaway situation. He's just doing everything he can to make sure that he's safe and that if he is joined by somebody else, he can contribute to that pace setting. Checking out my Twitter here real quick. Can we ID the finish line more clearly from the angles on live stream? It's hard to know exactly where it is. So I believe we just solved that problem. I think we have a new camera that's working. I don't know how this works. So I can't actually pull it up for you, but I'm pretty sure that we now have one shot of the finish line that actually has the finishing banner, so hopefully that'll help clarify where everything is. I will do a recap of the women's race here shortly for you guys. A secret.
I don't have to go through people's bags.
Yeah, thanks, mate. and I'm just getting some juice for my my electronics. We went full on electronics mode out here on the sidewalk of Somerville here today to try to make sure we can bring you guys the best possible coverage that we can. So I'm going to be plugging myself in here. Boom, there we go. All right, so 33 laps remaining. We've got a preem, a two-place preem, a $50 and a $20 preem. That's awesome, actually, because that's the same dollar amount that we were doing for our women. So the first rider across the line is going to take home $50. The second rider across the line will take home $20. We've got a lot of action at the front of the race, but it is still so early that I think that we're going to, see a lot of jostling, a lot of sort of washing machine effect on the back stretch. Just trying to get an understanding here of where our cameras are, just so I can kind of walk you guys through what you are seeing. Okay, so I think what we're looking at right now, we're looking at coming out of turn 2. We've got around 3 riders in your screen right now. We don't know exactly who those riders are just yet, but again, still so early in the race that a lot of these early separations aren't really going to have legs. Now, this is a preem lap. A lot of our New York City athletes who are here today are going to be looking for those preems and looking for some of those early opportunities to make sure that they can put cash in their pocket. As we're coming through right here, this is the backstretch of the race, and hopefully we're going to be looking for that great camera angle, looking into turn 3 up from number 4. What you're looking at right now is, at least on my screen, I'm not really sure where that is. So I'm just going to call it as I see it. Right now I'm still waiting for the field to come around and call out what is happening on this preem lap. So our lead moto is coming through out of turn number 4. Our lead vehicle, the lead pace car with some of our sponsors are in there as well, having a good time, and it looks like our field is all together. So these preem laps really do try to keep the pace high, and that is a New York City rider for sure, going for those preems. Pretty classic move there. We're going to have our spotters looking for who is taking home that final preem. Number 43, Marlo Rodman of Jamaica was one of those riders that was going for that preem. Marlo is actually here in the United States from Jamaica because he races at the Valley Preferred Cycling Center in T-Town through the month of June, where there are a lot of UCI races. So it's really cool to have Marlo here today. Marlo actually took the win in Raritan, Boundbrook. Let me check that really quick. So looks like Marlo took the win in Boundbrook earlier this week. So let's sort of walk through where we're going and what we got going on here right now. We've got a lot of preems happening here early in this race. We have 32 laps remaining in our men's pro race for the 74th annual Tour of Somerville. On the last lap, number 26 and 43 took those preems. Number 26 is Raynoth Jeffrey from Queens, New York, and then number 43 was, in fact, Marlo Rodman from Jamaica. So it's cool to have those two guys grab those preems. This is the third race of a 3-race weekend. The first race was on Saturday at Boundbrook. Boundbrook is a classic part of this 3-race weekend, and it's awesome that we are able to bring that back for you guys. In Boundbrook, Marlo actually took that sprint. I talked to Marlo before today's race here today. He said that basically he played off the lead out that PA Lightning was trying to set up for Stephen Hall. The lead out was initially set up by Mike Chauner. Mike Chauner has a really good long sprint. He's got a lot of long power, and then he is able to really keep speed high. That's something that Stephen Hall really likes to jump off of, except Marlo's he's got that extra little explosive bit, very similar to Jake Keogh, and Marlo was able to take advantage of that into the point of taking a 2 bike length win over Stephen Hall at Boundbrook on Saturday. Yesterday's race was in Raritan. Stephen Hall took that win. It was an 8-man breakaway yesterday. And Stephen Hall was a really big, aggressive rider. The person who got second, Augusto Sanchez, he's from Greenville, South Carolina. Stephen told me last night that Augusto actually attacked with about a lap to go. He showed a really good power through the entire race, and he was definitely somebody that we should be watching for the end of today's event. He just sort of mistimed it. An interesting name from yesterday's race as well, John Durso. Durso's out here right now. He rides for High Gear, presented by Trek. And John Durso is just one of those guys that is also ageless. He has been out here at the Tour of Somerville a number of times. I don't have a specific number for Durso, but I have raced against him, and he is tenacious, so to speak. So really nice to have John Durso getting a result out there. But let's not forget the PA Lightning duo of Mike Chauner and Stephen Hall here today at the 74th Tour of Somerville. Let's check out what happened on that last lap there. 31 laps to go. Number 58 is starting to get himself a little bit of a gap. That would be Stephen Ward of the High Gear Trek team. So it's teammates of John Durso. Stephen Ward making himself known on the front of our race right now. Looked like Team Skyline was actually putting in a little bit of an effort there to try to bring him back. I saw Ryan DeWald up there, and another one of his teammates, maybe Wes Klein or Kyle Penny, trying to do everything they could to bring back rider number 58. Kind of a questionable move, honestly. I mean, Stephen Ward, while he might be strong, sort of let some of those other teams do the work, especially if you're trying to weigh late for a lead-out opportunity for Jake Keogh later in the day. I mean, these guys are strong. DeWald, I've raced with him as a teammate and against him for years. DeWald has a tremendous amount of power, can certainly drop me right now. But at the same time, you got to be really smart about using your energy. Talking about energy, Ryan DeWald, he is a type 1 diabetic. And so he has to be really, really conscious about where and when he uses his energy and uses his effort. So let's check out what is happening off the front of our race right now. Number 18 has decided to take another flyer. So that's Gilbert Gomez of Team Somerville. So Team Somerville. Team Somerville is making a local New Jersey team. They definitely want to represent themselves well here. Those guys are also going to be a big factor at the end of today's race, but only a few of them. Remember, the names I'm saying right now are names that are probably not going to be a factor at our finishing sprint, because this sprint is so challenging. You have to really, really save your legs if you want to actually be a part of the finishing sprint here at the Tour of Somerville. Where I'm standing just outside of turn 4 is right across from the bus stop where the sprint traditionally starts. For years, the bus stop has been the designation of where a wave of riders goes in order to try to put themselves up for the final sprint win. This final bus stop here, now especially this year that we've moved our finishing line about 150 meters closer to the bus stop, is absolutely where that sprint is going to start. In the women's race, we saw that continually by the Canadians, the Cyclery 4i team. They did a phenomenal job throughout the race, getting a lot of preems and starting their sprints from around this point. Today's sprint is also a little bit deceptive because we've got a bit of a headwind as you come into that finishing stretch. So, our sprints here throughout the day are going to be really, really team-based, and they're also going to be speed-based. It's going to be important. 30 laps remaining in our feature bike race. I'm going to check out our Twitter. All right, cool. So I'm glad to hear that our new camera angles are working out for you. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching us, Vicky. So I'll try to do a little recap of our women's race here, as we still have around 30 laps remaining in our men's feature race. Our women's race was really animated early on. The Canadians riding for the Cyclery, presented by 4i, did a great job sending riders up the road continually. They had Emily Flynn took some flyers. Number 15, Kinley Gibson, also took a number of flyers herself, even though she is the Canadian national sprint champion. Those riders, they grabbed a couple preems, they forced the field to chase, but it was always coming back together repeatedly. Barry Miller making a bridging across to that number 18 there. I'll stay on track with our women's recap, and then I'll fill you guys in on what's happening in our men's race. The Canadians did a great job sort of regrouping their tactics in the middle of the race. They started to set themselves up for a lead out, and they started to do a really great job. But the Pickle Juice Pro Cycling team and the Mellow Mushroom Cycling team also did a fantastic job kind of letting those Canadians do a brunt of the work. And the Canadians were unable to take the victory here today. It was, in fact, Laura Van Gilder, the ageless Laura Van Gilder, taking the win here today at the 74th Annual Tour of Somerville. It is the fourth time Laura Van Gilder has won here in Somerville, and it's really great to see her take that win. So back to our feature men's race. We have a $20 preem lap up for grabs right now. Number 18, who is Gilbert Gomez, riding for Team Somerville Bicycle Shop, obviously a local shop. He's got about 15 seconds on the field, but my good friend Barry Miller, aka Baza, he is bridging across to number 18, Gilbert Gomez. Barry Miller, he's got a tremendous amount of fitness. He does not have an explosive sprint in him, but he can ride a pretty phenomenal number of watts for how small of a rider he is. Barry is absolutely one of the most committed riders to cycling. He absolutely loves the sport, and he has really structured his entire life around coming out to these races and being the best representative and ambassador for cycling as possible. So it's really good to have Barry Miller out here today. This year, again, Barry is riding for the Metra XR Cell / Cycles 54 team. Cycles 54, I believe, is a team here or a shop here in New Jersey. So it's really nice to have Barry Miller out here with us. Once he makes contact with Gilbert Gomez, we're going to see how that's going to play out. We haven't seen Barry or Gilbert really necessarily get a result at all the previous two races of our 3-race weekend. But let's see what happens here today. So I'm in turn 4 right now, and Barry Miller has, in fact, made contact with number 18, Gilbert Gomez, and Barry looks really comfortable. His pedal stroke is really good. It's really light. Michael Black of QCW, presented by JL Velo, is also trying to make his way across. Michael Black comes out to race at the track with us every once in a while. His leg speed is improving. His cadence and his overall pedal stroke is definitely improving. So it's nice to see Michael Black putting himself on the front of the 74th Annual Tour of Somerville. So, you know, when we get a rider like Michael Black combined with a Barry Miller and this rider number 18, Gilbert Gomez of Team Somerville Bicycle Shop, you definitely have a trio of really strong riders. You know, we've said before, 8 is the magical number at the Tour of Somerville. If you are in a breakaway situation and you have less than 8 riders, you're going to have a really, really hard time staying away, especially when you start to see some wind kicking up in the home stretch. Now, let's talk about the backstretch in that wind. On the backstretch, you have a tailwind situation, so it's deceptively easy, right? You think that you can go fast. You think that you can put it in a 53.11 and really crank away, but you're forgetting that the rest of the field has that same sensation. And so, you know, nobody really has a true advantage in a breakaway situation when you've got a tremendous tailwind on the backstretch. It really basically just pushes the Peloton back into the breakaway, and it means that the breakaway has to push tremendously hard, and they just need that mass of numbers in order to stay away and kind of create their own tailwind effect and push effect to maintain that gap. So we've got 28 laps to go here in Somerville right now. Barry Miller and Gilbert Gomez and Michael Black look like they are trying to maintain a bit of an advantage here off the front. If you guys do have any questions for me, please reach out to me. My name is Gabe Lloyd. I'm on Twitter at Gabe Lloyd. Checking Twitter a little bit here and there. So if you guys have some questions for me, I'd be happy to try to answer them as best I can. So our lead motors are coming back around. And we're going to be looking for our 3 riders. So Michael Black did not get across. It's Barry Miller and Gilbert Gomez, who have stayed away now for a bit, and they've got around 15 seconds. I mean, honestly, that's pretty good, but oh man, here comes the Burrows brother. One of the Burrows brothers now attacking, trying to move up, and I can see Marlo Rodman also checking over his shoulder and starting to move up. So I'm going to unfortunately have to say that this breakaway with Barry Miller and Gilbert Gomez was going to be short-lived to the point of possibly only being around 3 more laps. If at the most, I'd say maybe 1 or 2 laps, those 2 riders will find themselves out there. Hopefully there will be a preem for them. They can scoop up a little bit of cash, put it in their pocket, make their effort worthwhile. It is my spotter at the start-finish line was looking at 27 laps to go. We had a 15-second gap for those 2 riders is confirmed. That 15-second gap, again, is not going to be enough to stay away for the win, but it should be enough to give them a little bit of cash if we do call a preem lap for everybody. How you doing? So we're out here for the 74th Annual Tour of Somerville. We've got $10,000 on the line for everybody, plus an additional preem list for the riders out here today. It's going to be a tremendous finishing result. We're still looking at a tentative field sprint situation, which is pretty much playing out how we had predicted it when we were looking at the start list and the other races that were happening throughout the week. One of the riders we'd like to highlight here today is Jake Keogh. He's making a comeback into professional cycling. He is riding for my friend Ryan DeWald's team Skyline, which is a subset of Winning the Race with Diabetes. That foundation is set up to try to help riders who have a medical condition and need some sort of medical device or treatment in order to compete at the highest level. Ryan DeWald, as I said, he has type 1 diabetes, so it is really challenging for him to race and compete at this level without the support of, obviously, his insulin and some other Medtronic devices. Jake Keogh, he actually has a very severe heart condition that nobody knew about, including himself, until just 2 years ago when he almost died, and he was able to literally come back from the dead, and he is now here racing with us. So yeah, really, really cool to have Jake Keogh out here with us today riding for Team Skyline. On the front of our field right now, you're going to see a lot of really unhappy faces because Stephen Hall is putting down the pressure. Stephen Hall is our Australian rider riding for Team Skyline. Yep, riding for Team Skyline. You can find us on the live stream, toursomerville.org/live.html. That's where some of our spectators here can find us. And if you've already joined us, thank you for tuning in. We're calling a $50 preem on this lap, 26 laps remaining, $50 preem. The field is really strung out. Barry Miller and Gilbert Gomez are going to be caught on this lap for sure, especially now that we're starting to see Stephen Hall of PA Lightning really put the pressure down. Stephen Hall, he spent the last 6 weeks in Belgium racing kermesses full time. He actually won a number of those kermesses. If you know anything about cycling, you'll know that racing a kermesse in Belgium is super hard. And the fact that Stephen Hall was able to win a number of those races speaks volumes about his current fitness right now. I've had the pleasure/displeasure of racing against Stephen Hall on the track at the Valley Preferred Cycling Center in T-Town. Stephen routinely rides really big gears that I can't even begin to push. So I know just how strong he is. And he is definitely looking for the win, but the way Steven wants to win is by making it hard. He needs this race to be like a Belgian Kermesse where it's consistently difficult, and he is going to have the fitness and the mindset, more importantly, to force that effort. So where we're starting to see Stephen Hall push that effort, he knows that he doesn't like this field sprint situation. He's looking around, he's seeing the Burroughs brothers, he sees Scott Savory, he sees Jake Keogh, he sees any number of these other explosive sprinters around him, and he knows that he wants to thin the pack out. If he can get himself into a group of 8 or more, he's going to have a much better chance of surviving into a breakaway situation. Lead moto's coming by me here in turn number 4. We've got a new solo rider off the front. It's actually Barry Miller. Barry Miller just dropped the field again. So Barry Miller showing tremendous fitness right now. Rider number 37, Carl Nelson of QCW, is trying to bring him across. But, wow, this is interesting. Honestly, really interesting. Okay, so let's talk about what's happening here. So Barry Miller, he was off the front with Gilbert Gomez for, let's say, 5 laps or so. And he was caught by the field, and then he sort of just bounced back off the front of the field once again. It sounds like Barry took that $50 preem on this last lap, so another $50 preem goes in the pocket of Barry Miller. Really cool to see Barry making the most of his experience here at the 74th Annual Tour of Somerville, presented by Unity Bank. Barry Miller, again, is a tremendous amount of fitness. He's really proving that here today. But he's also showing, as I said before, if I'm saying your name right now at this point in the race, I'm probably not going to be announcing your name for the podium later on. I think that's okay for Barry. Barry knows that he came here to, win back his prize money, or win back his entry fee, I should say, and then make a bit of prize money through these preems and these intermediate sprints. Sounds like we got number 41 in the pit with a mechanical. Number 41 would be Stalin Quintero of CRCA/Dave Jordan Racing. Dave Jordan was a staple of New York City cycling. He unfortunately passed away a number of years ago. It's really nice that we have a team that continues to honor his namesake, and especially a team that can come out here to the 74th Annual Tour of Somerville. Jump over to Twitter and see what we got going on. Cool. So I'm not seeing too many issues with our audio or with our video, so that's great to hear. If you do have that, any questions or anything else, feel free to give me a shout out. That's right. So my good friend Beth Strickland is pointing out that our old guys, Slaughter and Torch and Animal, Paul Pearson, are making themselves known here at the Tour of Somerville. It's pretty cool for those guys. Those guys have a lot of patience and a lot of experience in these races. Ed Slaughter has famously yelled during the Derby that he's won more races than we've ever started. So, we'll see how these guys fare at the end of today's race. There's Paul Pearson, actually, 4th from last wheel, riding in the Morgan Stanley kit. Paul Pearson is ageless, truly. We'll see him. We might see him in the final top 10. So we're at 24 laps remaining for today's feature event. Seeing a lot of action off the front, but we're also starting to see some riders starting to position themselves for some sort of our mid-race surge, right? So that's always something that happens at the Tour of Somerville. In the middle of this race, guys who do not want a field sprint situation are going to make one more effort to try to attack the front and give themselves a gap in a way that will favor them. They want to be in a breakaway situation. This is a perfect time to go. We've had enough sort of elastic stretching throughout the beginning half of this race that these guys could start to have an opportunity to separate themselves from the rest of the field. Barry Miller has done a fantastic job. I hope that Barry would have the legs to maybe go with some of those moves later on. If he should have that opportunity. Barry did bounce off the front of the field after being caught when he was with Gilbert Gomez. He shows he had good fitness, but every rider only has so many matches in their match book, and you can't use them too early here at Torres Somerville. That said, today's race for Barry Miller, riding for Team Metra, Cycle 54, has been really successful thus far. He's put a bunch of money in his pocket, and that will be a really good day for Barry Miller, no matter what happens. If you're following along on Twitter, we're getting some riders driving back from Winston-Salem. Winston-Salem sound like a really good race weekend. So thank you guys for tuning in and listening to this live feed. So apologize for the delay here. I'm just sort of going over my notes and going over everybody's sort of messages to me as we are coming into 23 laps remaining. Barry Miller is off the front, but man, this field is now strung out. We are single file through and through. It's going to be really next to impossible for Barry to stay away any longer at this point. So, that's how the dice rolls here at Torres Somerville. We've just rung the bell once again for a $50 preem, so that speed will continue. We will continue to stay strung out, and Barry Miller will be absorbed by that field. Let's see, though, if Barry can sort of surf, recover, and then respond to some of these attacks. I'm already seeing from my spotters at the start finish line that PA Lightning has just attacked up the right side. We think it is Mike Chauner. So Mike Chauner is really starting to help contribute to the pace setting. Being nice and aggressive for Mike Chauner and Stephen Hall. Those two guys are really good teammates. They're really complementary sort of riders. It's not like one of them is an explosive sprinter and the other isn't. They're both long distance sprinters, and they both really prefer a hard, fast, continual race rather than a race that sort of surges and is slow. But the fact that those two riders know the type of race that they like together means that they can contribute towards making the race happen in the way that they see fit. My hope here for these two guys is that Chauner is using himself to try to bait the field into chasing him, which will make it go faster. That will help Stephen Hall. That could allow Stephen Hall to launch himself in a counterattack that would then benefit himself. Chauner could then recover, sit in, and kind of wait for the sprint that may help him. So we've talked a lot about the history of this event and what types of fields and what types of sprinters do really well here, but it should be noted that we do have a new course here this year. It's the new old course. It's the course that Adam Meyerson started on when he first raced here in 1990. So it's slightly shorter than some of the courses that I raced on my past 10 years of racing here. So what that means is we have a little bit of less room to make up for if you're in a bad position at the end of the race. So we're starting to see a few riders go after preems right now. I'm starting to see a lot of riders sort of spread out here. Barry Miller has actually recovered in the middle of the field already, so Barry clearly showing some really good fitness here. So number 48 came off the front. Augusto Sanchez riding for the Karma Racing Team. That was a green and black kit of Augusto Sanchez out of Perth Amboy, New Jersey. Nice to see a new face on the front of Torres Somerville. And this is exactly what I was talking about when I'm talking about that mid-race surge. Now we're going to see a whole new deck of cards being shuffled here where, riders who sat early, who wanted the early moves that they knew would probably be doomed to be reabsorbed, but they themselves do not want a field sprint situation. Now they're going to start to attack. Now they're going to start to try to reshuffle and make an effort in the middle of our race here to to favor themselves and set themselves up for a victory here in Somerville. We have a $100 preem right now for the riders, so we are continually looking at preem after preem after preem for these athletes. Single place preems though, so it is only the first rider that crosses the line that will take home these preems. $100 on the line right now with 22 laps remaining. 22 laps remaining in our 74th annual Tour of Somerville. So number 48, he grabbed that last preem, and it looked like he basically just sat up. So we are going to see a reshuffling. I'm trying to check our live feed here to see what camera angles you guys are seeing. I'm not sure that what I see is what you see at home. I'm going to try to restart my feed here and see where we are. Looks like I'm looking at the looking up towards turn 3, which is a great camera angle for you guys to have, because the race is to turn 3 today. Because we are riding on a slightly shorter, slightly newer course, the race becomes critical to turn 3 if you want to have a good finishing position for the finishing sprint. But we still have 22 laps remaining, actually 21 laps remaining as we come through. Number 48, wow, he did stay off the front. That's amazing. We thought he had actually sat up. He did not. So number 48, Augusto Sanchez, in the black kit is going, and that is Marlo Rodman, number 43. Marlo Rodman in the blue and black kit. Very strong Jamaican rider. He's trying to bridge across to number 48, Augusto Sanchez from the Karma Racing team. So these riders, equally from the Caribbean, they really know how to race fast, race hard. They like these sort of aggressive, nuanced elements of a criterium race. It's 8 to 10-second gap here. Number 48, Augusto Sanchez, he did hold on for that $100 preem. That's really good to see. So that rider has put a bunch of cash in his pocket here this afternoon in the middle part of the race. But as I was saying before, Marlo Rodman, he's trying to bridge across, not that far behind Marlo. You had a number of other riders, all single file, all trying to equally make their way across, but there wasn't really a gap between themselves and the field, so they're really just dragging the field up to the breakaway. Looks like through turn 1, we've got a third rider sort of making it, but now the camera sort of shifted there, so it almost looks like we're back together, right? So we're going to see this washing machine effect on the backstretch over and over and over with 21 laps remaining on the backstretch where we have a bit of tailwind. It's slight right now. It's not too severe. The flags on our home stretch are not blowing very much, but that tailwind effect is just going to blow the peloton right up to these 3 riders off the front. The counterattack that will occur off of this catch, again, that's going to be another stretch of the elastic, another opportunity for a few riders to make themselves off the front of the field and to make sure that they can at least give themselves an opportunity here today at Somerville to get some cash in their pocket and possibly stay away. Although as our laps tick over, our laps tick down, there are names that I have not said who are very good sprinters, and that's a good thing. As Laura Van Gilder showed in the pro women's field, when I don't say your name, you're doing it right. You do not want to have your name said here. Now that's very different from a lot of other criteriums in the United States. A lot of crits in the US, you must be in the top 10 wheels and you must learn how to float those top 10 wheels. Westchester is an amazing example of that type of criterium. And Shane Klein is a rider from Raleigh who's really good at just floating those top 10 wheels all day long. And that's exactly what you need to do at a race like Westchester. Whereas Somerville, you can be like Meyerson, you could be like Paul Pearson, and you could sit at the back for a large portion of this race and be absolutely fine. Elastic is stretching at the front. The snake effect is in full effect on the front of the field. That would be an amazing shot if we could show it to you. As we're looking up the start-finish line, we've got a 2-place preem with 20 laps remaining. Sounds like $20 and $10. The field is really strung out, so these 2 preem places are going to start to be more reminiscent of a field sprint situation. That'll be really great for us to watch here in turn 4 as we're sitting across from the bus stop where the sprint traditionally starts, and that'll be a great opportunity for us to start to learn where, in fact, our sprints are starting here today. So far, actually, from what I've witnessed, our sprints have started earlier than the bus stop, but I kind of agree with Adam Meyerson in his assessment that the sprint should start here at around 75 meters to go or so, especially because right at the end of our sprint, it's slightly uphill, so it's that moment where you feel like you're there, you're there, and then you get to that crosswalk right in front of the start finish line where there's literally 20 meters to go and your legs just lock up. And that's a moment where those explosive sprinters really power through that, and they can really sort of carry that speed over the top of the pedal stroke and get themselves to the line first. So, the sprints are rewarding patience continually, and that's exactly what I think we're going to see here on this preem example. Let's see what we can do for our camera angles here. We're not seeing too much action here on the backstretch right now, but we're going to be hopefully looking for our turn 3 camera here shortly as we are looking for our lead motos and the front of our race. There is our lead vehicle right there in our frame. And then we will be looking for that lead moto, and shortly thereafter will in fact be the field. So let's see how we're carrying through turn number 3 here. Yeah, we're totally all together. So this will be a really interesting mimic of our finishing sprint. It's that race to turn number 3, which we are looking at right now. And now I can see the field right in front of me. Marlo Rodman is on the front, and a lot of riders looking around, but it is Marlo Rodman who kicked right here at that bus stop. He took on a lot of power and a lot of speed, and he actually gapped Stephen Hall, who is on his wheel. Let's see if Marlo can hold on to that sprint, and he actually did. I just watched him coast across the finish line to take that preem. 19 laps remaining. Marlo Rodman from Jamaica, he took that $20 preem by starting his sprint here at the bus stop right out of turn 4. Okay, so that's a great sort of insight that we can carry through to these last 19 to 20 laps. We're going to be, now we're getting into like the critical moments of the race where if it stays together, we'll be looking at a field sprint situation. Basically the next 5 laps are the opportunity for a group of 8 or more to separate themselves from the field. If we don't see a separation within the next 5 laps, we are absolutely going to see a field sprint situation here. So Marlo did take that preem, and it looks like number 75 was Thomas Detweiler of PA Masters. Nice riding there by Thomas, representing PA Masters Cycling. Taking that second preem. So he put $10 in his pocket. I'm going to buy himself a beer afterwards for his efforts here today. So I haven't said the names of Jake Keogh or Adam Meyerson or Scott Savory yet as far as riders who have been proactive at the front. We have said the names of a lot of their teammates. We've said I've talked about them as far as their stories and histories are concerned with this race, but we haven't actually said anything to them or about their efforts yet, and that's perfect. We don't want to be saying their names yet. It's still too early for the sprinters to be positioning themselves. When I was talking to Adam Meyerson this week, he says that the positioning for this sprint is basically the last 2 laps. Meyerson is going to wait until essentially 5 to go before he's going to put himself near the front. That's a gamble. He knows that. If somebody gets away, like right now, Glenn Faria and number 78, Horace Burrows maybe. We got a little bit of separation on the front right now, but a rider like Meyerson is going to gamble. He's going to assume that the field is not going to let something like that stay away. He's okay with letting it go away, but he's just going to assume that it will be brought back. So 18 laps remaining, number 16 and 33. That's right. So Gilbert Gomez once again, and then Number 33 would be Rafael Meron. Rafael Meron, that's really interesting to see Rafael making himself known this early. I would actually had Rafael picked as a rider who would be in contention for the finishing sprint here today. Rafael is one of those riders from New York City that is always, always at the front of a CRCA Park race, whether it's in Prospect Park or Central Park. And a race like this really does suit Rafael. So it's interesting to see that he's making this effort now, because it may indicate that he doesn't feel comfortable waiting for that finishing sprint against some of these other explosive sprinters here today, which again I find really interesting. So 18 laps remaining. Number 16 and 33 are off the front. So Rafael Meron, and then Gilbert Gomez once again. Or I'm sorry, 16. Oh yeah, that is Glenn. So Glenn and Rafael. So that's interesting. Maybe Rafael is seeing Glenn, who won Bear Mountain earlier this year, and is thinking, well, I know this guy has a ton of horsepower, and that essentially I could outkick him if it came down to the two of us. So I'm just going to sit on and do everything I can. So yeah, it's a really interesting play of tactics here. So it's good to see a lot of our old friends coming out to tour Somerville here today. We've got a whole lot of really good bike racing still left in store for you guys. 17 laps remaining. 17 to go here. Let's see if we do have a breakaway situation here. The field is really not far behind at all. Rafael and number 69, Ian Watley. I'm going to have to get that checked on me. So we got basically 4 to 5 riders off the front. We're going to use our spotters to verify the numbers of those 4 to 5 riders. To me, Glenn is clearly like the horsepower of that group, but you can't just rely on one guy. You got to have 8 guys who are committed to the move, who are going to push that move forward with everybody. So right now we've got 33, 10, 59, and Glenn. Yeah. So Glenn Ferreira, looking at number 10, Derek Cote of Team E-Race. And then we're looking at number 59, Stephen Alexander. Stephen Alexander, another good rider who possibly won this race. Adam Alexander won this race in 2014 when he was riding for the Foundation Cycling Group. So, again, 16 laps remaining. 4 off the front right now. It's going to be, or 17 laps remaining, excuse me. I'm not seeing the communication. I'm not seeing the cooperation occurring, and I think we're even seeing some of that group grow on the backstretch. But we have to have full commitment. You don't have somebody in there from PA Lightning like Stephen Hall, who's really driving that group, who's trading poles with somebody like Glenn from Team Metra, Cycles 54. So, without that cooperation, you can't have too many passengers on your train, essentially. If you look at the breakaway situation where, all these groups are, all these riders put together make up a train, you have an engine and you've got a couple passengers. And so you can't have too many passengers on that train or else it's just going to get derailed. So let's see what we are going to find here in our lead motos as they come back through here right now. Field is back together, yeah. So right there, that proves it. Case in point, even though we had a big group of riders all put together, the field just brought it back. Mike Chauner was up there bringing that full field back. Bill Elliston is starting to make himself known on the front. We're starting to look at the back of the field to see where riders like Akio and where Paul Pearson would be. Some of these riders, and Adam Meyerson, of course, riding for Cycle Smart. We're going to see where some of these riders are. So that's right. So our spotter, we're saying that with 16 laps to go, riders are all over the road. Nobody really wants to take control yet. It's way too early for any type of lead out situation. It's way too early for an individual rider to make an effort this far out. I mean, essentially, we're still 19-ish miles away from our finish line, so that's really, really far. But it is a great opportunity if we can get cooperation from a number of riders for a breakaway situation. We're going to be looking for a couple more preems throughout the last third of our race to see if we can animate anything. And see if we can continue that streak of accelerations and aggressive riding. So it looks like we've got a current lap preem, I believe, for $50 and $20. And yeah. So hey, once again, my name is Gabe Lloyd. You can find me on Twitter at Gabe Lloyd. If you've got any questions for me as we are winding down the 74th Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic, please reach out to me. I'll do my best to answer your questions. We've had an amazing day of racing here so far. Laura Van Gilder won our women's feature event riding for the Mellow Mushroom Pizza Cycling Team presented by Van Dessel. And right now we're still waiting to see how the end of our feature men's race is going to play out. Both the men and the women's field had $10,000 of prize list offered to them today, thanks to Unity Bank. So we thank them very much for making bike racing possible here in Somerville and continuing the tradition of the longest bike race in America. So this is not a preem lap. We are coming into a preem lap, a 2-lap preem on 15 to go. So 15 laps remaining. We're going to hear the bell for a 2-lap preem. Guy Nellis is on the front right now, actually. He rides for Van Dessel Pro Cycling. Guy is a very experienced criterium rider. He's also a master carpenter, and so really cool to see a rider out here who works full-time, that is also at the front of our professional men's field, starting to make himself known when it actually does matter. Thanks. So my good friend Jared Nieders, I believe, has a question for us. Jared would like to know, in his absence, who are the top 5 favorites today? Well, Jared, I would have to say that our top 5 favorites here today are actually pretty reminiscent of the race predictor tool that's featured for us on bikereg.com. With a few exceptions. I mean, I think this rider, Anthony Rodriguez Morel of the Somerville bicycle team, I mean, you look at his results all around, he doesn't have too many, but he's got a really explosive sprint. Rafael Maron, that I just spoke about, I think he just went too early. I think he just wiped out his chances. Jake Keogh, I think, is one of the top 5 riders to look at. I think Adam Meyerson is a top 5 rider to consider for today's ride. I think Scott Savory is also going to be really up there. And I think Marlo Rodman, the Jamaican rider who's here to race at the Valley Preferred Cycling Center in T-Town, is also going to be a rider to consider for today's feature event. We got so many really talented riders that come in for this race who are doing races that maybe Race Predictor isn't aware of or doesn't necessarily weight the same manner. It's an algorithm that uses race results and race conditions and course types to essentially evaluate where riders are going to finish. Scott Savory, last year's winner, he's actually 36th on this list. That does not accurately reflect Scott's potential in an explosive sprint situation. You have to remember that Scott is a full-time real estate broker in New York City working for the Corcoran Group, and Scott works a lot. and he does not train very much. But when he gets on the bike, he's been racing since he was 12 years old. He brings a lot of experience and depth, and he can just read a race really well. And he brings a certain level of confidence in his sprinting that really helps him in a situation like the Tour of Somerville. All right, so with 15 to go, now 14 to go, number 42 and number 43 take the preem. So I know 43 right now is Marlo Rodman. And then Alan Rigo, riding for the Lupus Racing team, also took that preem. Alan Rigo is a really good teammate for Scott Savory. He's really strong. He can put in a lot of horsepower, and he just demonstrated that he can also sprint a little bit. So as far as a lead-out man, it's Alan Rigo is a good person to have on your team and on your side. Marlo Rodman is, he's doing a really good job, but, I know I just said that he might be a top 5 contender, but he's also starting to burn a lot of matches, right? So I've said Marlo's name a number of times. If we go back through our preem results list, Marlo has won a number of them. So he's definitely making money here today, and that's awesome. But as far as actually being able to take home the win, I don't know. I mean, he might be just doing too much too early. We're still looking at 14 laps to go. That's a really long way out. We're still over 15 miles out from the finish here today. So this is the feature men's race at the 74th annual Tour of Somerville. We are actually launching a drone on the start-finishing line or section to try to see if we can stream that action to you guys. And Mike Chauner has put himself on the front. And that drone did not survive. So the situation in front of us here was that we had a drone up in the sky, it hit a tree, and then it fell down and almost caused a problem. So now we're good, we're cleaned that out, and we're back to racing. So back to the action. I apologize for the delay there. Mike Chauner of PA Lightning was on the front doing a little bit of pace setting. A lot of riders are sort of neutralizing themselves after that drone incident here at turn 4. So the bunch is sort of rolling easy right now. They're sort of collecting themselves. If you saw on YouTube a few weeks ago, there was a rider in California who crashed really badly by having a drone land in his front wheel. So we're glad that nobody was affected by that right here. Here at the 74th annual Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic. So a little bit of regrouping, a little bit of hanging out here, and then we'll be back to our action. We're going to check out and see where our live cameras are and see what you guys are seeing. All right, so we've got not really sure exactly where our cameras are right now, so I'm just going to call it as I see it. Use this time, obviously, to reach out to me on Twitter and see what's going on. My name's Gabe Lloyd. I can be reached on Twitter at Gabe Lloyd. If you have any questions for me, let me know what you are missing, and I will do my best to fill you guys in. All right, here we go, guys. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 riders. I'm counting 3, 6, 8. We've got 8 riders with a bit of separation, with about a 3-second gap, and so that's the magic number that I was talking about earlier, where 8 riders get away and the field just snaps, right? The field just freaks out because they know how important having 8 riders away can be, especially at this point in the race. What's interesting is the fact that those 8 riders were even able to create that separation because of the fact that everybody knows that that's a dangerous number here. So when we see that, that means the elastic is stretching. Even though we have riders in here who are trying to save themselves for the finish, riders who have been going after preems who are showing good fitness, you're seeing tired legs. You're seeing guys, start to let those gaps go because they want somebody else to do that work. And that's exactly what these riders right now are trying to take advantage of. They're hoping that when they get that gap, somebody else behind them will let that wheel go, and that therefore they can create that 8-man breakaway situation. I'm looking at 12 laps remaining right now. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching the 74th Annual Tour of Somerville. My name is Gabe Lloyd, and we have 12 laps remaining in our feature men's pro race. We are pretty strung out. We've got some local teams, Team Skyline and PA Lightning, trying to take control of our race. But we've got a lot of New York City riders in here right now who are looking to also keep it together because they're looking for that bunch sprint. We shouldn't discount Augusto Sanchez of Karma Racing Team. He took home $150 in preems already here today. He clearly has some really good fitness right now. We should also check out the rider from Greenville, South Carolina, who was second yesterday to Stephen Hall, which is Augusto Sanchez. Sanchez is in here, and he could definitely do a lot of damage. All right, so we've got 11 to go, 11 laps to go, and we got another preem lap, preem lap, $50 and $20 on the line. So a 2-place preem right now with 11 laps remaining, and now we're getting those critical last 10 laps. So we're going to be looking to see who's going to be going after these last few preems before we start to be set up for our finishing sprint. Remember, riders like Meyerson and Keogh are going to start to make themselves to the front of the field really, really late. It's going to be about 5 to 8 laps remaining is when those types of riders are going to put themselves near the front. You might also see a rider like Paul Pearson, who won here in 1987, put himself near the front if he's still in contention. So a lot of, just stretching that elastic over and over again, just trying to make this race hard as possible. But again, you're going to see that to be the advantage of some of the riders like Keogh and Meyerson who would prefer it. I haven't said Stephen Hall's name here in a number of laps. Stephen Hall tried to set some tempo really early on. He tried to force a couple of attacks, but I haven't said his name specifically yet. It's been Mike Chauner of PA Lightning, who's done a great job sort of keeping it hard when it needs to be hard, and that's good to see. I think those two riders are going to try to be opportunistic right now and trying to allow Stephen Hall to set himself up for the win. I mean, Hall could definitely take today's race. He has not done a lot of work. He has not gone after preems. For Stephen, honestly, he's been super patient. I've seen Stephen just absolutely go bonkers and blitz himself into these things. Speaking of which, Steven is looking over his shoulder right now. He's put himself into a small breakaway with Guy Ellison and Michael Black, riders that he knows from the track, but he's not really contributing. He's just sort of pedaling softly, cutting across. He's out of the saddle right now, actually going through the start finish. So, hey, you know what? Maybe Stephen Hall, the old Stephen Hall that we know, is coming back. He is looking to be super aggressive and basically going against everything I just said. So that is entirely possible because it is bike racing and you never know what's going to happen. 10 laps to go, another $50 preem. This $50 preem is in honor of a Somerville veteran. Remember, this is Memorial Day, so we'd like to give a shout out to all of our service men and women who have, sacrificed their time and themselves, in some cases their lives, to protect our freedoms and give us an opportunity to race bikes here in the street here today. So in honor of some local Somerville veterans, we are going to offer up $50 cash preem for the first rider across the line as we're looking at 10 laps to go. 10 laps remaining here as part of the Tour of Somerville, 74th annual Tour of Somerville, one of the longest lasting bike races in this country. As we said, Bill Elliston, he's actually done 33 consecutive Tour of Somervilles. This is Adam Meyerson's 27th Tour of Somerville. So Guy Ellison, this is actually his 18th Tour of Somerville. So, a lot of history here today, a lot of guys who have come back over and over for this event because it's such an important part of American cycling and such an important part of what makes East Coast cycling so special and different really from California racing. California riding has just a different sort of nuance and finesse to it, which is amazing because when you have national calendar events, you sort of merge East Coast and West Coast together into something really cool and special that makes American bike racing as diverse and special as it is. Here's the front of our race. The lead moto is coming through. Stephen Hall is still on the front, but he's not doing any work. He's just kind of looking around. He's like, hey, if you want to do some work, go for it. Davey Dawson has found himself up there as well. These other guys look knackered. I'm going to say Michael Chauner is also up there, though. It's good to see Chauner and Stephen Hall, that duo, really going after some of these late race preems, but really trying to force that 8-man selection that I'm talking about. Honestly, I think it's a little late to be trying to force that 8-man selection. I think that they should have tried that maybe 5 laps ago. But you play with the cards that you're dealt. And I think right now is the time when the race is fast enough that it's appropriate for them to try to start to attack it and to really start to stretch that elastic. If they tried to attack 5 to 6 laps ago when it was slower, it wouldn't have been as effective because too many other riders would have been able to respond to that effort and they would have been able to bring back those moves. So 9 laps remaining, and on that last lap, which was a preem lap in honor of our Somerville veterans, number 58 took that preem, and that is Jermaine Burrows, riding for Mango Seed, which is a cool restaurant out in Brooklyn. So Jermaine Burrows of the Burrows brothers, Jermaine and Paul, making their way out here to Somerville today. Again, the Burrows brothers are some guys that, man, when I first showed up in New York City a long time ago now, they were at the front of every race, winning all those races, and it's cool to see them continue to come out here today and grabbing some preems and putting some money in their pocket. All right, so 9 laps remaining with Jermaine Burrows taking that last preem. It sort of created a bit of a split and a bit of a shift, and we've got 6 riders sort of making themselves known. I'm trying to look at our camera here on the backstretch and to see if those 6 riders are able to maintain that gap or not. I wasn't quite able to make it out, so we're going to be looking for that turn 3 camera here shortly so we can see if those 6 riders maintain that separation. Again, our race is going to be to turn 3 when we get down to the final finishing sprint if we end up in a field sprint situation. But right now we've got around 6 riders looking to separate themselves. It looks like that field is actually grown, but the field is right there. It's essentially non-existent. you got a lot of ear race riders trying to contribute to this pace setting, but it's just too little too late. You got Glenn Furia on the front of the field dragging it back, so the field is completely single file right now, which means the speed is just way too high. So you're not going to be able to sustain that effort. Now, Glenn did just pull off as he went through the start-finish line, because he was like, well, why am I going to pull you guys if you're not going to do any help? But at the same time, we're too late. It's too late in the race right now. Everybody wants to go and make sure that it's going to come down to a field sprint situation. 8 laps remaining here at the Tour of Somerville. We have a 2-place preem also on tap, $50 and $20. About 8 to 9 guys are separated, but again, it is not a gap that we can even measure at this point. Yeah, so eight laps remaining, 2-lap preem, 2-place preem as we come here. So top 5 favorites, as Jared Nieders was asking me about earlier. I think it's going to be really tough and to call what's going to be happening here for the top 5 specifically, just because there's a lot of shuffling going on still. I mean, honestly, I think it's going to come down to anyone's race. Jared just asked a really good question on Twitter. He reached out to me at Gabe Lloyd. He said, what's the weather and road condition like? Related, have there been many crashes today? So at Jared Nieders, he is absolutely correct. I have not really spoken too much about that. The weather right now is overcast. There's not a blazing sun beating down, melting your face like a traditional Tour of Somerville race would be. Our winds are around 5 miles an hour, so they're here, but they're not really gusting, they're not really splitting the field up. On the home stretch, we have a headwind. On the back stretch, of course, a tailwind. That tailwind effect on the back stretch is just sort of blowing the peloton into any of these separations. On the home stretch, it's forcing these breakaway attempts back into the field as well. You're seeing a little bit of gapping occurring into turn 3, but, it's not really doing anything. Here's a great example right now, a rider pushing way too big of a gear through the into the headwind on the home stretch, and the field just swallowed him up like they were a whale eating an anchovy. So, you got to really use your gears, use your legs, maybe ride the track a little bit and get some lighter legs so that you understand how to kind of approach these headwind situations on a slight uphill. Last but not least, Jared, the roads are dry. We started off the day with very wet roads. We had a lot of rain here this morning. There's a little bit of water in the gutters, but the road surface itself is really dry. We have not seen too many crashes. We had one crash earlier in the men's race in turn 3, apparently. We saw a few guys gapped off the back there, but it was not significant. We did see a crash earlier today in the women's field, just in the middle of the pack, that took out a number of women within the 5 laps remaining. And that was unfortunate to see. But yeah. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate the feedback. Thanks for reaching out to me on Twitter at Gabe Lloyd. We're doing the best we can here with the video feed and with the audio. We're going to do everything we can here to bring you guys the last 7 laps of this race. On that last preem lap, number 58 and 27 took the preem. So Jermaine Burrows now has 2 preems. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. That was actually Stephen Ward, number 58. Stephen Ward of High Gear. He took a preem there. And then number 27, Ryan Joyce. He took a preem there as well. So Ryan Joyce, he has no team, but he is from Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks for coming up and racing with us here today, Ryan. Number 27, you're going to take home a little bit of cash. And Stephen Ward of number 58 of High Gear Cyclery also taking home a little bit of cash on that last preem lap. We have 7 laps remaining here right now. Actually, we're going to be coming into 6 to go, as I already have my lead moto circling around here in front of me. We have 2 riders off the front, and one of them It looks to be Noah Granigan. Wow, and Barry Miller. Okay, here we go. So Noah Granigan, Barry Miller, Michael Chauner, and that was the Augusto Sanchez, I believe. Okay, so what's happening right now, if you can't see on the feed, we have we've got two riders off the front. It's Barry Miller and Noah Granigan. Two really, really experienced riders who have raced a bit in Europe and who are really top level road racers. So this field sprint situation does not suit either of them. So they're trying to play the last few laps of this race to their favor, but it's only two of them. However, around 2 seconds behind them, Michael Chauner from PA Lightning. He's followed really closely by number 48 Augusto Sanchez, who took home a couple preems earlier today. But then, the field is just right there. So we've got so many, just these little separations. And even though Noah Granigan of CCB Racing, presented by Van Dessel, is super, super strong and was Jake Sittler's pick of the day, I don't know if there's enough horsepower there right now to make that move stick, even though he's got Barry Miller of Metro Cycles also there with him. Again, we need 8. You need 8 riders here at Somerville in order to make a breakaway stick. And right now, we're just not seeing that. We're just seeing the field really paying attention. They're not letting anything slip away. And honestly, so that's going to start to benefit the Keoghs, the Meyersons, the Savorys, and all those other riders who are our top picks of the day. 6 laps remaining right now, ladies and gentlemen. The 74th annual Tour of Somerville. John Hunter, you wanted to know the biggest teams here today. Honestly, man, Lupus Racing is one of the biggest teams, and Team Skyline out of Reading, Pennsylvania, led by Ryan DeWald, are one of the 2 largest teams here. Team Somerville Bicycle Shop obviously put together a really big team here today, but when we're saying big, we're still only saying 6 riders at the most. We're not seeing our United Healthcares. We don't have our Crit Life riders. We're not seeing some of our bigger professional teams. Okay, we have a quartet. We've got a quartet with a sizable gap right now coming into our 5 laps to go. That quartet includes Barry Miller, Noah Granigan, Michael Chauner, and Augusto Sanchez. Sanchez right now has proven himself to be the best sprinter out of that quartet. So, and honestly, right now, our field is just all the way across the road, and they might be letting this race go away. So this actually just became a nightmare for Adam Meyerson and Jake Keogh, who were banking on the fact that the field would not let something like this happen. You can't let a Mike Chauner, a Noah Granigan, and a Barry Miller get away. We have a massive crash on turn 1 right now, a massive crash at turn 1, and unfortunately we are within 5 to go, so there are no more free laps. If any of those riders within the field need any mechanical assistance, they will not be able to get it. We are within 5 laps to go right now, and there is no more free laps. Those riders must chase if they want to find their way back into this race. So we got 8 guys down. We're not really sure exactly who they are at this point. If I do get that information, I will let you know. So we got another preem on the line as well now. Okay, so 5 to go. We've got no free laps remaining. We just had a crash at the start-finish line that took out around a dozen riders, and we still have live racing in action. We have live racing going with $50 and $20 preems. We've got a couple people just standing in the street, but it's Somerville. They don't seem to care. So here we go. So looks like there's a lot going on here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to lie. I'm doing the best I can. I'm sorry. So race radio is going bonkers in my ear. So here we go. We got the front of our race right now. Noah Granigan, number 48 is Augusto Sanchez. Number 6 is Michael Chauner. And at the back of that, number 34, Barry Miller, riding for Metro Cycles. I'm not sure the lead moto just pulled off. I'm not sure if these riders are going to ride past the lead car. It looks like they are. Course is open. They just, okay, this is kind of amazing. So I wish you were here, folks. I wish you were here. Stuff's going bonkers. Absolutely bonkers right now. We have live racing right now, but not everybody is on the same page. We have 4 riders away. Those 4 riders, the lead moto for some reason stopped driving and pulled off to the side, and then the lead vehicle, who's a sponsor vehicle, stopped at the start finish line, but the race was still live. So our 4 riders went around that lead vehicle because the race is still live. They were correct. They did not do anything wrong. Those 4 riders just did the absolute correct thing. We hope that the officials understand that as well. So our 4 riders are still in the lead, but there's absolute chaos going on here in Somerville, New Jersey right now. Our lead vehicles now need to get back around our leading quartet of riders. The field itself is very confused as well now. So, talk about a critical point in our bike race where the field needs to start accelerating. The field is slowing down. The field doesn't know what's going on. They're being told that the race is neutralized. We have pedestrians walking in the street right now, and it's a live bike race. Nobody really knows what's happening. So we're gonna try to get some order to this situation. As it stands right now, we've got 4 riders off the front. Very strong road riders. I mean, I'm thrilled to have my good friend Barry Miller as part of that. My good friend Mike Chauner of PA Lightning is also in there. Noah Granigan, really strong CCB rider. And then number 48, Augusto Sanchez, is in there as well. Okay, so it looks like our lead vehicle was able to pass our quartet. The lead moto did not. So we have no lead motorcycle on the course right now. We hope these 4 riders can stay safe with that. No pedestrians will get in their way. Noah Granigan taking a nice long pull there into the headwind, and Barry Miller is second wheel. The Augusto Sanchez is third wheel, and then fourth wheel, it looked like, was Mike Chauner as we come through. So now our official here is riding in front of the field, and Team Skyline is doing everything they can to bring this back for Jake Keogh. So now we've got all of the Team Skyline riders on the front trying to bring back the race for Jake Keogh. Jake Keogh could absolutely win this race if the field comes back together, and Team Skyline knows it. None of the other riders in the field are willing to contribute or willing to bring the field back for Keogh. So it looks like on the live feed we've got some situation where we've got some medical on the ground up past the start finish line that they're trying to attend to, but we do still have live racing, and we are still looking at 3 laps to go. 3 laps remaining, a lead of 4. They have at least 15 seconds over the field. There is no neutralization of this race. It is full on racing right now. So it's pretty amazing, honestly. I mean, so Jake Sittler, he's coming back. His race prediction could be true. Noah Granigan is up there. He's got himself 15 seconds over the field, but Noah's going to have to really pay attention to Augusto Sanchez. Sanchez has clearly shown himself to have an amazing sprint here today. He's taken a number of cash preems at points when the field was still around him, so he's sprinted really, really well. I'm getting notice right now over race radio and from my spotter at the start finish line that they are clearing the rider right now off the track. So a very interesting final 5 laps of our 74th annual Tour of Somerville Racing. We started some drama with a drone that fell into the field. We then followed it up with a crash right after our five laps remaining situation. So now we see 2 laps to go. Barry Miller, Mike Chauner, Augusto Sanchez, and Noah Granigan just passed me here at turn number 4. 2 laps remaining, ladies and gentlemen. 2 laps on the line. We're clearing that rider. We have our lead moto is trying to help. Guy Nellison is now on the front. Guy Nellison of Van Dessel Racing is trying to help Team Skyline for Jake Keogh. Glenn Faria is also out there trying to do some pace setting. I'm not sure if he's friends with the Team Skyline guys or not. I do know that Guy Nellison is friends with Ryan DeWald and Jake Keogh a bit, so it's good to see that Team Skyline bike is starting to get themselves a little bit of assistance from the rest of the field. Now, the other thing that's going to happen here is that Adam Meyerson is really going to benefit from that teamwork if they can get that quartet back. But again, we still have 15 seconds on this. Actually, I was just told 20 plus seconds. So now 20 plus seconds for our quartet. This race might be up the road, ladies and gentlemen, and it all due to a number of crazy extenuating circumstances here, sort of outside of the control of the Peloton. It's going to be crazy here. It's really going to be an interesting end to our 74th Tour of Somerville bike race here. I'll let you know if I can about the condition of that rider as soon as I hear it. So, wow, 2 laps to go, 20 plus seconds. These riders are going to see 1 lap to go. This race has just changed. And let me see if I can catch you up a little bit. With 4 guys off the front, we're not talking about a race to turn 3. We're talking about a race of patience. It's the guy who can jump the latest, right, before we get to the start-finish line, right? Usually our sprint starts here at the bus stop. That's around 75 meters from the start-finish line. The 3 riders that are riding with Augusto Sanchez of Karma Racing Team do not have the explosiveness that he does. So it is really his race to lose. If these other road racers are smart, they can try to goat him into pulling more and pulling harder, or they could also just sit up. They could force him to take a pull. You don't know what's going to happen. Now our gap is coming down. Our gap is definitely coming down because now we've got another team putting some guys on the front. Number 23, Alec Hoover of Team E-Race, presented by DSO Manufacturing, and the rest of the Team E-Race DSO Manufacturing riders from Rhode Island are now doing a lot of pace setting. But I will tell you what, from my experience at the Tour of Somerville, this field is way too wide. There's way too many guys wide on this home stretch right now coming into 1 to go. And I don't know if that quartet is going to get caught. It's going to be really, really tough. I know that there's a lot of speed, but let's see what's going to happen. Now my spotter at the line, 1 to go, is saying that Stephen Hall of PA Lightning is surging. That's an interesting moment for Stephen Hall, right? Because he's got a teammate in Michael Chauner up the road. You would think that Stephen Hall would want to at least get the podium out of Mike Chauner. I'm pretty sure Mike Chauner could outsprint at least 2 of his fellow breakaway riders. But Stephen Hall might not be confident in that, or he might just want the result for himself. So either way, we're seeing a lot of surge going on. The other thing that Stephen Hall could be doing is just messing up the rotation. So if you got teams working at the front trying to ride smoothly to just ramp up the speed, when Stephen Hall surges, it messes that rotation up and it causes a slight hesitation. And maybe that's the play that Stephen Hall is trying to pull out here and actually benefit his teammate Mike Chauner, who is currently up the road. Honestly, for any one of those 4 riders, it would be amazing to see them on the podium here at Tour of Somerville. None of them did we think was going to make it to our podium here today when we looked at the race predictor. Okay, guys, we're looking at turn 3 right now on our cameras. Our lead motos are coming through. We're trying to see if our riders have any gap. I'm trying to see, and we've got 1 rider away, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my goodness, this is going to be crazy. And it is Noah Granigan. Noah Granigan from CCB Racing. He has attacked this group and he has a sizable lead into the finish. He's looking over his shoulder, trying to make sure he can stay true. We've got riders down here, but Noah Granigan has taken the 74th annual Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic. Wow, that was amazing. So Noah Granigan, really smart athlete. Jake Sittler, congratulations, sir. You are a wizard looking into the future for your ability to know what was going to happen here today. The situation on the road is that we have riders down in the finishing sprint right here. We think some of these riders will be okay. They look a little dazed and upset the fact that they made it this far and made it. So we're going to wrap up here today at the 74th Annual Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic. Your unofficial results. Your unofficial results, ladies and gentlemen, are number 20, Noah Granigan, taking the win here today. In second position, number 48 would be Augusto Sanchez. In third position, number 9, Michael Chauner. And rounding out your quartet, Barry Miller, number 34. Barry Miller, a great day in the saddle for him. This is a $10,000 prize list rider. So, a great day for Barry after taking home a bunch of preems early on. We still have a lot of riders down here in the start-finishing stretch. This is really similar to what happened in the women's field where, in these last few moments of a race, guys just get really caught up in the moment and they sort of lose themselves and they forget where they're putting their bike. And it's an unfortunate reality of bike racing in crits where we have riders who do go down. It looks like we do have one rider who's unable to stand up from this race. So it's unfortunate that we have to end our bike race with some crashes, and because we definitely don't want to be taking away from an awesome day for Noah Granigan of CCB Racing. What a tremendous effort by that athlete to get it into the break that late and force that selection, and then for him to be smart enough to attack that break, because as I told you before, the sprint of number 48 Augusto Sanchez was not something that he knew he could beat, and Sanchez proved that when he when he won the sprint over the other three riders in the break. Wow. Okay, so a lot happened here. A crazy amount of information. I hope you guys are able to follow along. I hope I did a good job for you guys at home. I had an absolute blast commentating for you guys here today. My name is Gabe Lloyd. You can find me on Twitter at Gabe Lloyd. If you have any further questions for me, please reach out and I'd be happy to answer them. This will conclude the 74th Annual Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic. We've got a whole. We're going to take care of some of these riders here who went down right in front of me, right where the sprint starts. Congratulations to all the athletes today who did a tremendous job. I thank you all again for watching, and we hope you guys will visit us next year for the 75th Tour of Somerville.
Eric here from Bridgewater Nissan. There's a ton of reasons to purchase from us, like a no-nonsense sales process with price and payments in minutes, not hours. Your time is valuable, so we offer you the best price up front. And this month, we're giving the house away. For example, lease a new 2017 Maxima S for an affordable $189 a month for 36 months. Or lease a new 7-passenger 2017 Pathfinder S just $199 a month with no down payment. Think savings? Think Bridgewater Nissan. Visit us online at bridgewaternissan.com.